$5.69.
Stop the cap.
Somebody call the cops.
Yo, throwaways off the dome, I don't type those, cause I'm running out of space on my iPhone. I'm a mystical beast when it comes to words, cause look, I stay spitting fire like Spyro. Mr. Burns graduated, I'm 3rd degree.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie and this is the Teta Effect. Basically, if you've already seen, I did about 100 videos on my time in New York, like vlog style. So this is my first sit down video, so go me. But today I'm gonna tell you how I managed to live in New York for 3 months, just under 3 months, on £2,500. Yes, give it up for me. £2,500, which is approximately just under $3K. Right? I say 3 months, so it was about 10 weeks and a few days. I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks, 5 key tips and tricks that you will need to know if you are attempting to do something very similar. So I'm just going to put a disclaimer in the beginning to say, obviously this is something that works for me and you can take all of this advice with a pinch of salt, because I did have a bit of help here and there, which I will go into in the video. But for the most part, this, not advice, but this kind of guidance will help you a bunch, I promise. So firstly, just the background of the trip. I decided after getting back from New York last year, April, after my birthday, that I really wanted to go back because I was only there for about 5 days. In about July, I finalized what I was going to do there, which was volunteering. And so I knew that with volunteering, you don't earn any money, but I decided that in that time between July and then the following April, I would have to save at least £3,000 to be able to live in New York relatively comfortably. Like I mentioned, I was volunteering and I wasn't working remotely from the UK, meaning I had no income the entire time that I was there. And on top of that, I actually had bills that I had to pay. I still had to pay, like my phone bill, my just different bills, you know, in general. So I had to bear that in mind when I was saving and just having enough money to cover both the bills at home and my time in New York. I did cut down on a lot of expenses during that time that I knew that I wouldn't need, so that I could spend more time saving money for New York. So I used to get my lashes done literally on a monthly basis, and my nails, as you can see, I've got lashes on now, but they look crazy. But I used to get my nails done. As you can see, my nails are done now. So I cut down all of these expenses and made sure that I was only spending money on the essential things. I need to preface this by saying that I did go with my mum and sister in the first week. So they flew out with me and I had convinced them to do this so that I could use their luggage space. So 6 very large suitcases, the 23 kg suitcases, and then 3 little hand luggages, of course, and then our handbags. So about 9 suitcases in total, and I pretty much took up, I'd say 8. No, I pretty much took up all of the 23 kg suitcases and about 1.5 of the mini suitcases. So yeah. First thing is organize, plan, be meticulous about it. There is no way you're getting around planning a 3-month trip on a budget as tight as mine was without planning. If you don't know me, I'm a meticulous planner. I literally plan everything to the final detail, because I travel a lot, so it's something that I do often. It's just natural to me, but if it's not natural to you, I'll show you a few ways that I break down the planning process. Budget my income, right? So I had my income, and then after taxes, I knew what my income would be every month, and then I split that. I think I saved about 70% of my income specifically for New York, and then I think about 10-15% of it was for bills, and then the rest was for me. Luckily, I don't have any like extreme bills that I have to pay monthly, so that worked out very well for me. I did a weekly breakdown of what I had left of that week's income, and then I did a daily breakdown, and it really didn't come up to much, but it was fine because at that time I literally walked to and from work. And again, like I said, I didn't have many other expenses. I was still able to go out with my friends from time to time, like every other weekend or so, but it wasn't like extensive, and I didn't do any like beauty treatments, so that definitely helped. After I did this, I transferred that information into how much I wanted to save for New York, which I decided 3K, because 3 months, I could do 1k per month. So 10 weeks, I did 3k divided by 10, so £300 per week. I literally went on Excel, tacked up all my expenses because I had a birthday trip just before New York. I went to Cape Town, so I had to make sure in July that I had put all the plans in place for me to be able to enjoy Cape Town and still have enough money left over for New York. Yeah, when I say be meticulous, I mean be meticulous. I had budgeted about £300 per week, and I knew that I had to allocate that budget for different things. That included fixed costs like transportation, and then food shop, and then activities, and then I did put Uber and restaurants and like extracurricular stuff in a separate bracket by itself. Lastly, I listed my must-see places in New York, because we know New York is a massive place with so many different things, but they have a lot of the same things with basically like a different face. A good example of that would be like seeing a skyline view of New York, which you can see, I think, at the Empire State Building, at the Rockefeller Center, if I'm not mistaken, at Summit 1 at Vanderbilt. So there was things like that. I would decide, okay, instead of going to the Empire State Building and Summit 1, I would go to one of them, and I chose the Summit because of the interactive spaces that they had within that attraction. So things like that, I would list all the places that I wanted to go to, and I had friends who were coming to visit me who wanted to see these places as well. So I made sure that the places that I listed that coincided with other people's preferences of places to see, I didn't go to in the time that I was there alone. Number 2, accommodation. When I say I was so shook by how much accommodation in New York was, don't get me started. Like, the people who are living there, Godspeed. I literally got on my Airbnb Zoom, because if you know me, you know I am amazing at finding Airbnbs and accommodations in general for like any trip. I'm really good at it, because I knew I was going to be in New York for such a long time, and I needed the ability to cook and, you know, be free to go and come as I pleased. Plus hotels are extremely expensive in New York, and it's not feasible to stay there for extended periods of time. I literally got on Airbnb really only. I wish I knew about Vrbo at the time, because I would have like contrasted and compared. I filtered it down to an entire place, as I didn't really want to share with anyone, even though it is a much cheaper option if that's something that is for you. I also didn't want to stay in a studio, which there are a lot of in New York, because not enough space, so a lot of places are condensed. I don't like the idea of cooking and sleeping in the same place. Just, I can't do it, especially because a lot of my foods are very potent in smell, and I didn't want my clothes to be smelling like tomato stew. Do you understand? Yes. So I decided that I was going to stay in Brooklyn, because obviously it's a short commute into Manhattan, and I just like the vibe and the ambience of Brooklyn versus Manhattan. I mean, yeah, I was like, Manhattan gives me very much tourist vibes. Let me stay with the locals, you know what I'm saying? I was looking for basically 1-bedroom apartment vibes, and I was so lucky to come across the first apartment that I stayed in, which was like, it was like a 1-bedroom basement flat, but had a shared kitchen upstairs, which was perfect for me, except there was, the shower was also upstairs. It was a separate shower, but I had to walk upstairs to go and use it. But besides that, it was so spacious. It was amazing. But hold your pearls, clutch your pearls. It was £2,700, right? For 4 weeks. I don't live alone, so I can't relate to like renting woes, but I'm pretty sure in London it is not 2.7k for a 1-bedroom flat. In Brooklyn, it wasn't even Manhattan, but it was in Williamsburg, just to give some context. And Williamsburg is where I was staying specifically, was about 20 minutes into the city center. So that's probably why it was so expensive, for basically a 1-bedroom shared kitchen vibe. anyway, yeah, so that was cool. Unfortunately, it was booked fully for the rest of my stay, so I had to move in the middle, and I moved into another place in Brooklyn that was in Bushwick. It was a bit further out, which was annoying. It was about 35 minutes to 40 minutes to the city center. The second accommodation I stayed in, when I say daylight robbery, girl, like, I think it was about 3K or so. It's like between 3.2 to 3.5K for 6 weeks there, yeah? When I say my chest, New York rent or just pricing, accommodation pricing is not for the week, so just be prepared. But because my cousin came out there for a couple of weeks, she gave me some money towards that. And then one of my friends, she came for about 10 days as well, so she didn't give me any money towards the accom, but she paid for my food shop. So get you some real ass friends that are gonna do that for you, because they understood how expensive it was. The one thing I don't like about New York, I think I'm gonna do a whole video separately about this, what I didn't like about New York. But the one thing I would say, the walk to the station, no, immediately no. Like, the walk to the station was 16 minutes, so I just didn't feel safe enough in the evenings to walk home, like, from the station. I was like, girl, that is too long of a walk to just, you know, be trodden along as a small little black girl in the middle of the, I wouldn't even say it was the hood, because it wasn't the hood. So those were the two locations that I stayed in, and I pre-book this. That is the key. Pre-book this before you get there. And obviously Airbnb has the option to pay in halves, in installments, so you pay one half and then you pay the other half. So I factored that into my savings. Bring perishables if you can. Now, I know this one is very nuanced, because if you don't have the luggage space, then this will probably not be possible for you. But I did extensive research on how much it was to live in New York before going, of course. So I used this really good website called Cost of Living. I use it for a lot of the places that I travel to, actually. I use that website, and I will show you an example, but on that website you can literally put the city that you're from and the country or city that you're going to, and then you're able to cross check how much things are in your city versus how much it is in another city. So I did London versus New York, and obviously I believe London is relatively expensive, but when I went to New York, that's when I knew that London was London is cheap in comparison to New York, right? But obviously you can go to any of the local grocery stores near you. You can 100% buy something that is cheaper. So pasta, you can get pasta like Tesco brand, Sainsbury's brand, all those type of pastas for £1 versus like the $2.99 that you would pay in New York for the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So I definitely stocked up on stuff like that in cans, like tuna and sardines and mackerel. I took a few starter things, so like tin tomatoes, tomato puree, like just starter ingredients for the first few weeks when I would want to cook but not want to spend any of my cash. I made sure to be strict with my food shop. So I decided that I would do a food shop every single week, because I think it was easier just to keep track of how much money I was spending. I would never go to the supermarket without a list, which is something I do here in the UK. I go to the supermarket sometimes without a list and I'll come out with rubbish. And to be honest, I did the same thing in New York. I went in with a list and came out with like extra things that were not on the list. But I always made sure that the week that I was doing that, I could afford to do that. So out of the $300 budget, I budgeted about $50 a week for my food shop, which in New York is actually very, very small. I remember I would buy like 5 items and they would come up to $30. You need to kind of like find how much you eat, what type of food you eat, and tailor that to how much money you would spend on your food shop. Just make sure it's enough. My budget was $50, but when I started from scratch, I bought maybe $100 worth of food, just like as the foundation. And then as the weeks went on, I just had to top up with extra things like fresh produce and milk, eggs, that kind of thing. I also didn't go to supermarkets like Whole Foods. One, there wasn't actually any around me. It was kind of a trek, so I went to a lot of the local markets around me. The second place that I lived near like I'd say it's like a wholesale food store, so I think maybe like the meats and stuff were a little bit cheaper than the previous supermarkets that I had been to. But the meats. And one thing about it, I know that it's not because the meats are organic that the meats are that expensive. I was so shocked. A pack of, let's say, 500, 600 grams of chicken or turkey was like $9.99, whereas here you could probably get like a 3 for $10 deal or a 3 for $12 deal, like 3 different packs of different meats. So I'm like, is our meat here bad? I don't know. Somebody tell me that's not a scam.
Take your mayonnaise.
Actually, I would like some ketchup and mayo.
Oh, you should
Chicken
take
good.
this.
Oh, okay, great. I minimized on the snacks because let me tell you something. Cheetos, those crisps, those chips, as you guys will call them in the US, $5.69.
Stop the cap.
Somebody called the cops. I remember when I first got to the checkout and I saw that on my receipt. I said, no, there must be some mistake. But on the Cheeto bag, it actually says the price. Guys, the bag, what? When I say I stretched that Cheetos, I stretched it to kingdom come. $1 per day. There's no way I'm buying Cheetos more than once a week. But like, isn't it like artificial colors and stuff in there as well? It's not even nutritional. Fourth thing is beauty, all things beauty. So I'm the type of person that will buy loads of things and I'm like, I can do this myself. I'm gonna do this myself. So I had literally I have a whole acrylic like nails kind of set with the gels, with the UV light, with the actual acrylic powders, the brushes, this, that, third, literally everything to do it myself. If there's anything that you can do, bring it. So I actually got my nails done just before I went, and my toes were still fresh from my holiday, but whilst I was out there, my toes outgrew, so I decided to do that myself, which turned out pretty good. So believe in your source, guys, because you're probably able to do things more than you think. And if you know you can't really do acrylics or anything like that, then just, stick to gel polish. Wigs, I went to New York being able to do wigs, so I left New York being able to lay my wigs like a pro, because one thing I was not going to do was pay $200 just to stick a wig on my head. I was not finna do that. Period. I had pre-planned, as I do. I had looked at loads and loads of different techs in different areas in Brooklyn, Queens, Harlem, the Bronx. I mean, I wasn't trying to travel all the way to the Bronx, but I had looked at all these places and I'd seen that all the prices were the same across all the boroughs. So toes was like starting price $80, nails was starting price like $50, waxes starting price like $50, wigs, hair, like I didn't even consider hair was like starting price $150 to $200. I was not even considering wigs or anything like that. The one thing I did pay for during the time there was waxes and my nails, because I didn't bring a wax kit and I had to stay waxed up. It was summer. My nails, I got them done once halfway through my trip, so that wasn't too bad. But the fact that I could do my toes myself definitely saved me a whole bunch. It saved me like $100 basically, because all of the prices that I've given, it's not including like the service fee or whatever it's called, and it's not including a tip, which basically is compulsory in the US. Pick and choose your poison. That's what I would say. Pick and choose which ones you are able to, what's the word? Compromise. The ones that you're able to compromise. Lastly, number five, keep non-essential spends to a minimum. One thing about it, Ubers, Lyfts, DoorDash, what's another one? Uber Eats, whatever else they have out there to eat, they will snatch your money so quick. It's not even a joke. I remember the only reason I got DoorDash was because I think I signed up and they said like for the first month you don't pay anything for delivery. So I'd say, okay, fair enough. If you are there for a long time, then definitely do that. Sign up and make the most of that because the deals are pretty good in your first month or so. I'll give you some examples of some things that I bought on DoorDash that didn't make sense. One night that I bought a slice of apple pie and like a pot of ice cream, and that was $22.81 or something for a slice of pie and a pot of ice cream. Why? There's no reason. There's literally no reason. Ubers, again, like I said, I would only take Ubers if I went out in the night and I had to come home by myself and I was far from the station. Like, I think I literally walked back home in the dark by myself twice, and that's when I lived in Williamsburg and my train station was about 9 minutes walk. In that Bushwick apartment, hell to the no. I did not even try it. So yeah, and Ubers ranged between like $30 to $60, sometimes more. It depended on the night, on the day. Like, it was very hit or miss. So it was something that I didn't do often by myself unless I was desperate. For example, there was one night that I went out on like a Wednesday evening by myself. Like, I met some of my friends in the city and they lived in like New Jersey, Harlem, the Bronx, so they were not going back to Brooklyn like I was over the bridge. So I paid for an Uber. It was like $60 something, but it was fine. One thing I did do often was like take a train back over the bridge to Brooklyn, like to my station, and then get an Uber from there. That is something that I always did. So it cut down the cost significantly from like a $50 to I think it was always around $7 to $10. So it was definitely worth it, even though it was like a 2-minute drive. I would do it every time. I would recommend that, especially if you're a female. Restaurants, I wouldn't go to that often because I cooked a lot. I shopped in order to cook, so I was cooking a variety of things as well. Sometimes I was making like a stir-fry noodle, gambaretti, traditional African food, so wache, which is like a rice and beans. I had rice and stew, so when they say there was rice at home, there was always rice at home at my house. Spaghetti bolognese, like I made a plethora of things, so I was never like bored with what I was eating. So if I did go out to eat, it was to like meet up with friends. It was never really by myself or anything like that, which is also why I didn't spend so much money on takeaways. So if you don't know how to cook, get on your Zoom and start cooking. Sorry, this lash is pissed. Instead of pissing me off, I literally just pulled it out. Yeah, as you can see, there's literally a bald patch in my lash, but it's fine. Let's just ignore it. Lastly is socializing. So I literally went out. If you saw my like social media, my TikTok or whatever, my Instagram, I was literally out every single weekend. Like, no cap, I was out. I was turning up. I was having a good time. Because the one thing about it, New Yorkers know how to party. Yeah, they don't know how to party here in the UK, but New York, they're going to show you a good time. So one thing I will say is you need to go out at least once or twice, like in however long you're going to be there, because it's such a vibe, especially in the summer. When I first went out, I paid for the first event. I think it was about £20, so not the worst. But when I started to make friends, like one of my friends had been out there for a couple of months, so she had made connections, and that way we literally did not have to pay for a lot of events. A lot of people like DJs and stuff would invite us, get us onto the guest list. It was really good vibes. Like, the people there were super nice, and it wasn't even a thing where like when they invited you, you have to be like with them. It was like a thing where they were just like, yeah, come, like I'll put you on the guest list, it's not a problem. Be friendly. If you want to go to events for free, be friendly. That's the simplest way to do it. Be friendly, because when you have good vibes, good energy, people are going to want to party with you. Do you know what I mean? Separately from that, there are so many events where you can go for free before a certain time. For example, there was a place called Barshimi/Shamansky, I think, where we used to go before 11:30 and it was free or something. So definitely just look out for that, because there's so many events that do that. Get there before a certain time and it's either cheaper or free. Just a few pro tips for you as well. The beauty industry isn't booming out there. They are making bank. So if you have a side hustle and you want to provide that as a service out there, you could probably make up to about $300 a week. and that alone can keep you for the entire time you're there. You know what I'm saying? One thing about it though, I'm not advising you to do that because I was on like a visiting visa, so I wasn't supposed to work, so I didn't. Each to their own, just saying. Okay guys, so those are all the tips that I had wrote down. If there's anything that you want me to go into further or anything that you want to know about my time there, then just ask me in the comments and I will make a video. I'll like compile some of the questions that I do get or whatever. Thank you so much guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. The lights are blinded in here. I am parched. I bet I drank that, like that was a lot. Girl, I'm trying to increase my water intake.